Hi everyone, Josh Guest here. After the country of El Salvador became the first nation in the world to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender last year, expectations were pretty high that another country would quickly follow suit. In fact, over the following few weeks, legislators in a number of Central and South American countries went on to introduce pro-Bitcoin legislation and add laser eyes to their profile pictures on social media. Even the state of Arizona in the United States tried to make Bitcoin legal tender. Each of those efforts failed to launch, and the question of who would be the next government to adopt Bitcoin has remained an open one for months. That question has now been answered. The Central African Republic announced last week that its parliament had unanimously approved a resolution to recognize Bitcoin as legal tender alongside the CFA franc, previously the only legal tender in the country. While the details on how and when Bitcoin's status as legal tender will be made official are pending, one fact is abundantly clear. The Central African Republic has taken a giant leap forward in terms of its own sovereignty. A lot of commentators have speculated that the Central African Republic's motivation for adopting Bitcoin was to allow some level of separation from its other legal tender, the CFA franc. The CFA franc is not a currency that was developed by the Central African Republic alone. Instead, it is also overseen by 5 additional African countries and is pegged to the euro. On top of that, in order to use the CFA franc, the 6 countries are required to keep a significant portion of their foreign assets with France's treasury. If you think that's an unfair financial situation for the Central African Republic to labor under, you're not wrong. Pegging the CFA franc to the euro means that the Eurozone and European Central Bank are able to expropriate significant amounts of wealth from the Central African Republic through inflation and other currency manipulations. On top of that, custodying its foreign assets with France's treasury leaves the Central African Republic at the mercy of France not to confiscate its assets, and limits the financial resources that the country has at its disposal to use in serving its own people. With such detrimental consequences for using the CFA franc locally, it's no wonder that the Central African Republic introduced Bitcoin as a competing legal tender. With fiat currencies, whether the CFA franc, the US dollar, or anything else, all users, even nation states, are at the mercy of the government that controls the money printer. The primary fear, of course, is that the money printer will hyperinflate your wealth away at the press of a button. But the risk of being pushed out of the financial system by the government in charge of the fiat currency is also huge. Neither of those risks exist in Bitcoin. Hyperinflation is impossible with Bitcoin thanks to its 21 million coin hard cap. Any country, company, or person who entrusts their wealth to Bitcoin can rest assured that their wealth will never be stolen by someone else through inflation. That is by far one of the most important aspects of Bitcoin, in my opinion. Bitcoin is also extremely resistant to censorship. All users have equal ability to access the Bitcoin network, from the largest country to the lowliest individual. So if someone doesn't like you, your beliefs, or your actions, too bad. There's nothing they can do to stop you from interacting with Bitcoin unless you choose to let them. For hundreds of years, governments have been asserting greater and greater control over our lives, and they extract an ever-increasing amount of value from us as a result. Without self-sovereign money, or money that allows us to have complete control over our finances with little risk of interference, we are constantly at the mercy of those who can take away our wealth by force or by inflation. Bitcoin is that self-sovereign money. Bitcoin allows you and you alone to control your finances, unless you choose to trust another entity and give your power, or at least a portion of it, away. Humanity has arguably never had self-sovereign money of as high a caliber as Bitcoin, and I believe that we will continue to see nations, companies, and individuals adopt it as their currency of choice well into the future. If you haven't adopted Bitcoin yet, what's stopping you?